Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of December, or Match Day -1, as the kids like to call it these days. I'm joined by Chris Jack to talk all things Rangers and to look ahead to the game tomorrow night. How's it going, Chris?
Oh, good, Derek. As you say, Match Day -1, as they call it these days. So heading up to the training ground later on. I think it's 2:15 for the player. And 2:30 for the manager, or 2:30 and then 2:45. So we'll see what the team news is, see what the injury news is, and see what the mood in the camp is like ahead of the Kelly game tomorrow, and also the AGM on Thursday as well, which I'm sure will come up in conversation over the next couple of days. So I've got a piece on the AGM to work on as well. So a busy day, but plenty to talk about and plenty to keep us going.
Yeah, busy weekend with regards all things Rangers. It's good that we've got a game tomorrow night, although we'll be seeing that when those that are pitching up at Ibrox. Who knows? Bit of news last night you would have seen, folks, with regards to on-pitch competitions. Rangers have been handed a home draw in the Scottish Cup 4th round. They will play Fraserburgh, the Highland League side that will be making the long journey south to Govan for that match. It will take place at Ibrox on the weekend of the 18th of January. Of course, Rangers met Fraserburgh a good few years ago now, back in 2018. If you remember, Rangers went up there. Josh Windass scored a hat-trick as Rangers breezed past the Highland League opposition. They currently sit 9th in the division, managed by Mark Cowie. So, Rangers given a favourable home draw. Chris, were you up at that game at Fraserburgh 2018?
I was. I actually quite enjoyed it, despite the fact I think it was either the first game or not long after we came back from Florida. Also the famous Florida. We had about 10 days or so in the Florida sunshine watching that Rangers squad get a picture taken with SpongeBob and all the rest of it, and then straight back home and up to Fraserburgh. A cold evening, if memory serves me right. Not exactly a classic, but there's family friends who stay in Fraserburgh. They're big Fraserburgh fans. They go to all the games. And now they're also hugely excited about this tie. So I actually went up and stayed with them for a couple of nights around about that game. So I didn't have the up on match day and then straight back down after the game, thankfully. So I enjoyed it and managed to enjoy a bit of the local hospitality, which was nice. So I may as well reciprocate that when they head down here in the next couple of weeks for this one. So it should a very winnable tie for Rangers, obviously. But knowing how this Clermont side operates, they'll probably sneak it 1-0 at present. But no, it's a good any tie at home is a good one. I think it's also a great trip, a great tie for Fraserburgh. So interesting to see what the Ibrox crowd is for that particular one. It might not be one that captures the imagination of the Rangers fans, but I'd imagine we'll see the Broch bring a fair support down the road with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Not often Rangers get to play at a Highland League team. So, looking forward to that game. Just off the top of my head, I think the last time they played, apart from that game against Fraserburgh away, I think Keith springs to mind when Rangers went up there if I'm not mistaken. You can let us know in the comments, folks, other Highland League sides that Rangers have faced. They've played Forest Mechanics as well. I'm not sure if it was in the Scottish Cup, but it's a tie that I'm sure the Fraserburgh fans will be very much enthused by. A big trip down to face Rangers. That's what it's all about. So, that match taking place the weekend of the 18th of January. Other news you would have seen, of course, after the game on Sunday, which wasn't a classic by any stretch of the imagination, a proper 3 points and down the road on Sunday. But we heard from Philip Clermont afterwards. James Tavernier was also speaking after that game, after he came back into the team. He was speaking about dropping out of the team, his upcoming testimonial, being rotated, everything in between. And this is what he had to say about a bit of an unusual feeling for him this season in being rotated in and out the squad.
Who's used to playing every single week, every minute of every week. How difficult for you to get your head around this new role? Obviously, at 33 now, you're not going to play every week. But for you, how difficult is that to get your head around?
Well, I don't see the age being a problem. I think 3 months ago, I think I missed 1 game, so nothing's really changed. As in, okay, I've gone up 1 number in my age, but I still feel fitter than ever to play every single game. So it's obviously different, unusual, but it's down to me to be really professional and keep working really hard and try to be a leader behind the scenes at the training ground and really push the boys on. And anyone who's asked to put on the shirt on the starting 11 have got to perform. So yeah, so it's obviously different.
I don't think he's best pleased at the current situation and dropping in and out of the team, Chris. He's someone that has, like you said there, he has pretty much since when he arrived from Wigan played every single week, barring I think he had a little niggle 1 season, and he hasn't often been sat on the sidelines looking at the parking players on it. He came back in on Sunday. We all know that Dujon Sterling, the manager, said missed out due to injury, and got to admit I thought he did reasonably well on Sunday. Perhaps a little break out of the team might have been just what he required. I'm not saying he's going to recapture the sort of form that we've seen a few seasons ago, but what do you make of Tav's comments here? I think he's going to play. Listen, Dujon Sterling for me is a massive frustration. We all know his injury problems. He can't seem to catch a break. He plays 1 or 2 games, gets injured. It's just that the state of play with Dujon Sterling. I'd imagine Tavernier will be playing a considerable amount of matches this coming month. What do you make his comments here?
I think, like you referenced there, he doesn't sound pleased about not playing. If he was okay with the situation, I think that would be a bigger red flag. For all the things that you can criticise James Tavernier for over the course of his Rangers career, his reliability and his robustness are certainly not 2 of them. Like he's put together a remarkable run of games every season that he's played. His availability has been hugely important to Rangers over the course of his career. And if it got to the stage now where he was going to say, "Okay, I've got into my early 30s, I'm going to wind down. I'll let someone else take my place, but I still want to pick up the same wages. I still want the honour of being Rangers captain. I still want to be part of this club, but I don't want to put as much into it." He would then rightly be criticised. If he'd come out and said, "Well, actually, I'm quite happy to play second fiddle to Dujon Sterling," you know what the comments would have been. You know what the reaction would have been from the Rangers fans. So I don't think you can then criticise him for being driven to try and get himself back into the team. I don't think you can criticise him for saying that he's more hungry than ever. Now, people will rightly look at his performances this season. They've not been at the level we expect. They've not been at the level of previous seasons. But does he still have a big part to play for Rangers this season? Of course he does. Now, you touched on Dujon Sterling there. He is not able to put together the games that James Tavernier has shown that he's able to. There's always something that seems to be in the background with Sterling. There's always a niggle. There's always a knock. There's always a reason why he can put a couple of games together, but then can't go and do it for longer term. If you're going to say you are the James Tavernier replacement, that's not just replacing him in a team for 1 game and being slightly better defensively and being able to do things that Tav perhaps can't or hasn't been able to do this season. That has to be, can you do it Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, or can you then go into this run that Rangers are in, domestic and European? Can you churn out the games in the way that Tav has done? And so far, Dujon Sterling just can't. We've not seen that from him. So it's a Casemiro situation that the manager confirmed at the weekend out for that 4 to 6 months. That's obviously the end of him at Ibrox, unfortunately. Certainly for this season, that right back area, it's going to be Sterling, it's going to be Tav. None of them will be nailed on starters. None of them will get 10 games on the spin. But if Sterling is going to establish himself, he has to almost take a leaf out of Tav's book and make sure that he's available more regularly than not.
Yeah, like I said, in a few wasn't for Tavernier. I don't think Rangers win that game on Sunday. So I reckon he'll be starting tomorrow night. Dujon's comment came in, and the manager did touch on it. Is it a trapped nerve? But listen, his body is failing him at this moment in time. Dujon, like we said, he can play a handful of matches, if that, before he's back on the sidelines getting treatment and missing games again. It's a huge frustration. So the one thing about Tavernier is he's been pretty robust at Rangers, and Rangers need more players of that ilk, physical wise. Now, he was quizzed on his upcoming testimonial next summer, what he thought about it. He says, obviously I need to complete this season, then that's on the cards, and it's very unusual these days for testimonials and players being at clubs for so long. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, I've seen on social media yesterday, Chris, some saying he should be having a testimonial at this point in time, given the sort of feeling around the club. I think the last player to have a testimonial was Alan McGregor, that game against Newcastle, but it is a rarity. You don't often see it these days. What's your feeling around a James Tavernier testimonial? I can't get my head around it at this point, I've got to admit. If he goes on, scores the winner against Celtic, and goes and has a tremendous campaign, and Rangers end up successful by the end of May, fair enough. At this point in time, there's too much going on for me to think about a testimonial and being deserving of one at this point in time.
I think the testimonial question is almost as difficult to answer as the James Tavernier Rangers career sum up question. I know the two of them are obviously linked. You look at a guy who has scored a remarkable number of goals, who has produced a remarkable number of big moments domestically, certainly in European games. You look at a guy who was a penalty shootout away from being only second Rangers captain to lift European silverware. You're looking at the captain who led Rangers to that title 55 that also meant so much to the club. But on the other side, you're then looking at the Old Firm defeats, the domestic failures, the really tough times that he's been through individually and as part of squads that have been nowhere near good enough, and ones that have been good enough and then not achieved enough. So he's a really difficult guy to actually sum up in terms of his almost 10 years as a Rangers player. Just because you get to that particular length of service does not guarantee you a testimonial. Now, that it's not a case of, well, once you've been in the building 10 years, you have to get that game. I think it has to be earned in terms of not just length of service, but how you've conducted yourself, the success you've had, how you've been as a Ranger. And I think there's a lot of things there that would point to Tav being worthy of one. But you almost think the club have to read the room a wee bit. Now, Tav is seen as the poster boy for the failures, rightly or wrongly, harshly or not harshly. That's how he is perceived by some sections of the support. I think it would be a big call from the club to, in the next couple of months, say there's going to be a James Tavernier testimonial against whatever Premier League team at Ibrox. Roll up, buy your tickets, because you know what the reaction to that's going to be. If it's coming off the back of a successful season where Rangers win the league or win a couple of cups or another extended European run, that would make it a slightly easier sell to the fans, maybe make it slightly more palatable. So I don't, if they were to announce it tomorrow morning, I don't think you get a great take up for it at all. I think Tav's Rangers career may be looked at more fondly once he's actually not here. Give it another 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years even. People will look back and say, what a remarkable Rangers career James Tavernier had in terms of numbers, and then you rhyme off 55 Seville, some of the European games, etc. But right now, I think you have to look at the situation that the club are in. People just scunnered with a lot of aspects of Rangers right now. It wouldn't be, I don't think it'd be fitting right now, but I think in time you might get more people coming around to it. And you look at so many different factors, he does tick a lot of boxes to be deserving of one. But I think, as I said right at the start there, it's a really difficult situation in Rangers' career to actually try and encapsulate and sum up.
Yeah, a lot of comments saying that he certainly deserves his testimonial. Darren with the point. Testimonial is a must. Can't let our standards drop. Men that give what he has deserve the same respect as many before. Day in the Life says he's been a good servant for Rangers. Yeah, I know he's dipped in form. So yeah, the general consensus is he does deserve one. I think it should be on the back burner though, in terms of announcement and things like and planning until Rangers get their house in order on the pitch. So yeah, in terms of testimonials, anyone that you've been to, I touched on Alan McGregor's there, Chris, down the years, have you been to any that you enjoyed? I think that the Alan McLaren one springs to mind, the one Rangers Middlesbrough, was it? Where Robbie Fowler played a half for Rangers. I loved that. Can't recall too many others that attended. Stuart McCall's one down at Bradford. I went to that down at Valley Parade. That was immense. I've got to say, I loved it down there. Any others that you've enjoyed going to?
I think the McGregor one's the only one I've actually been at. The McCall one I wasn't at, McLaren wasn't at, and obviously after that, because they are such a rarity these days, it just doesn't come around very often.
No.
The McGregor one I was at, that was a good occasion. I was actually at his testimonial dinner that he held as well. It was a really good night. But no, it's not something that happens a lot these days, because the game has changed and people move on. People move on a lot more regularly. So to be at a club like Rangers for that length of time, it does say a lot about you. As Tav clearly has his critics. He has had his highs and lows, but he still showed a resilience to be at a club like Rangers for a long time.
Yep. Let us know in the comments, folks, any testimonials you've been here that sort of are etched in the memory. Finn Fogel says, I was at John Gregg's 1978, Rangers 5, Scotland 0. That would have been quite something. But yeah, I'm intrigued to find out testimonials you have been to and what were the sort of standout memories. Just sticking with the right back theme, Chris, this is a good comment from Bluebells Are Blue. Says, Derek, Chris, do we need a right back in January with the long-term injury to Nana? Sterling is great, but has never stayed fit for long enough, and Tav is Tav. I think we do, unless King is up to the task. Well, just off the back of that as well, bit of news down south, of course. Sean Dyche has been speaking about Nathan Patterson. There's some murmurings that he could be offered on loan from Everton in January, but he was quizzed on that in a recent press conference. He says, who's reporting who? Tell me who, name them. But online, okay, must be right then. Yeah, we decide what happens with the players here. So he pretty much shut down any speculation that Nathan Patterson could be heading out on loan. But tell you what, if he was available, I would be all over that. I think Rangers do need to strengthen in the right back position in January, Chris. Would you agree?
I think you're looking at a replacement for Casemiro, not just in the squad in terms of a body, but someone who is as flexible in terms of his position. You think the left back berth were okay. Shefty been really impressive, largely over his Rangers career. Ridvan is now back fit, so you would think if you're carrying two left backs, that should be enough. Other side of it, just given how, as we touched on earlier on, how brittle Dujon Sterling seems to be, you can't really go with just the two, and that's where Casemiro was a benefit, because he could fill in at left, because we know how brittle Ridvan Yilmaz can be at times as well. So having someone who could play right across that back four was really advantageous for the manager. So I would think they would go into that January window looking at someone who can fulfill each of those roles. Someone who is only a right back, perhaps not really just going to fill the space. Unless you can play right back and left back again, that would be a benefit. Touched on this with Josh yesterday in terms of the Robin Proper situation. Do Rangers have to address that in January? No, do they have to go and try and add another centre half? If they do, you're probably looking at Proper moving on. Someone touched on Leon King in the comments yesterday, and I see one this morning, a guy whose Rangers career has just evaporated. So King's not going to be the answer. You look at that back four, you look at the options. I think Rangers definitely need another body in there, but it has to be the right one. Has to be someone who has that positional flexibility to be able to fill in gaps, or to come in and be an improvement. If he can kind of be an improvement, that would be great. But I think someone who can fill in each of those individual roles would certainly be a benefit for the second half of the campaign.
Yeah, I get just on Patterson, he's another one that has had injury problems. Just bringing another injury pro centre back and sort of being comfortable at playing at right back, I think, is something I would hope Niels Coppin and the recruitment team are looking at strengthening in January. I think that is essential. Rangers' defence, for me, is nowhere near good enough at this point in time. Other news, one player that isn't at the club just now, Chris, he's out on loan, but reports over in Greece, reporting that Aris Thessaloniki, who have Jose Cifuentes on their books, are keen on lowering the fee, believed to be £4.2 million for the Ecuadorian midfielder once his loan deal is up there at Aris, and they're apparently opening discussions with Rangers about lowering that. Tell you what, if Rangers can get round about £4 million for this guy, then hats off to them. That is great business. He was someone that was brought in with just over £1 million at the time. We were told by Michael Beale that he was someone that would take Rangers to the next level. He came in and just didn't fancy it, did he? I know he had the issues off the pitch, didn't fancy the weather. Apart from Betis away, I can't recall anything that he did of note at Rangers. Just one of those transfers that never worked. So I think it's I very much doubt we'll see him in a Rangers jersey again. But if they can get as much money for him as possible, then fair play.
I had a piece on Cifuentes 2-3 weeks ago during the last international break, so just a couple of weeks ago. Spoke to a couple of people about him and how he was faring out there at Aris, and was surprised to find out that he was doing very well, because he didn't show enough of that during his time at Rangers, as you say. I was actually surprised when I was going through the background for that piece. Surprised he actually played as many games for Rangers as he did, because I had very, very few recollections of him actually in a Rangers jersey. He just didn't look ever to be the type of player who was going to live up to the Michael Beale hype, as you say, the guy who would take Rangers to the next level. Never showed anything like that. Never looked like being the type of midfielder that Rangers required. Clearly didn't settle. I think after he moved to Brazil, he mentioned the Scottish weather and that type of thing. And you do wonder how much homework did Cifuentes put into the Rangers? How much homework did Rangers put into Cifuentes? Round about the time the deal got done, it was clear there was a lot on both sides. Actually, he was over. He took in a game. Rangers, they did a lot of selling to him and his representatives to try and get him in. So it seems strange then that both sides were almost caught out by the weather and life in Glasgow and life at Rangers. Having done so much groundwork on that deal, they should have negated all those factors, but it still didn't work. Clearly, just someone Rangers have to move on. He's not going to have a future here, and I think the better he does over at Aris, the better for him. Hopefully, the better for Rangers. But he's not going to be a guy who has an impressive loan and then comes back and makes a bid for a jersey here. His Rangers career was short, not overly sweet, but it's certainly over. And as you touched on there, Rangers just have to try and maximise the fee. And I see you wish him all the best, and interesting to see where he goes and how his career develops, because I think he does have something about him, not in terms of a Rangers midfielder, but I remember speaking to people before, just before he signed and round about the time that he signed, really highly rated in his international youth career, did really well at international level, did really well in the MLS. There were talk of a number of European teams having a look at him before he made that move to Rangers. I think Rangers felt it was a bit of a coup. They felt it was someone who they could actually make a decent profit on. It's just not worked from either a Rangers perspective or a Seafood perspective. So one that's you mark it down as a lesson learned, hopefully. But it's interesting to see where he actually goes, because speaking to people out around about Aris for that piece, he's clearly come in and made an immediate impact. I think there's a number of Spanish-speaking players within that squad, which has maybe helped him settle in off the pitch, but seems to be playing in a team and a system that suits him. At that time, they were at the top of the league and going well, so he's clearly enjoying himself over there. But I don't think he'll be back in Glasgow anytime soon.
Yep, and it's a temperature that's much more suited for him as well over there than, I can imagine him being in Glasgow at this point in time. It's a tad chilly to say the least. Just back to testimonial. I love this. Vicky says, went to the great Davy Cooper's testimonial against Bordeaux, a fitting night in recognition of one of the greatest players I've ever seen in any shirt, not just a Rangers one, where the turnstiles were closed early and many fans locked out. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Would have loved to been at that game. Would have loved to have seen Davy Cooper in his prime as well. Just going back to, you mentioned proper there, Chris, and Rangers looking to strengthen in January, probably. True Rangers 1872 says, what about Big Clinton at centre-back? Thought he looked okay. This is Clinton Inciala, of course, brought in from Milan in the summer window. I watched him down at St Andrews when they played Birmingham. Thought he had did some decent stuff, but by all accounts, he's not thought to be near ready to feature for the first team, Chris. I thought we would have maybe seen glimpses of him, bits and pieces in the first team by now. Just hasn't happened. The coaching staff obviously don't think he's ready. Could that be an option, do you think, by January?
We started the conversation this morning looking at that Fraserburgh Scottish Cup game. That seems to be the ideal one to put him into and give him that first team debut. By all accounts, he has been steady enough for the B team. Josh is actually at that game against Queen's Park later on, so hopefully Inciala gets a game, and Josh can give us a bit more of a scout report on him to see what he's good at, what he's maybe improved on, what he still has to improve on. I think centre half in general, for so many seasons it was Conor Goldson plus a partner. Now it's John Souttar plus a partner. That partner has chopped and changed. I think Balogun for me is the picket present, but that's clearly not a long term solution. He was moved on from the club a couple of seasons ago to create that pathway for Leon King to come through and establish himself. It's not happened. Robin Proper was brought into the club as the Goldson replacement and has never looked good enough to hold down that spot on a regular basis. And Balogun has then come back to the fore. In general, I would like to see more B team players get a chance. Good to see Bailey Rice get some game time, but we need to see more of these players. We need to know if they're at the level. Something that myself and Stevie touched on in the talking point a couple of weeks ago before he jetted off on his holidays. They do need to that pathway that people speak about. It has to get better. There has to be more players progressing along that. And someone like Inciala came in at the start of the season. Again, read a big piece on the website on him in terms of how Rangers managed to get him here. Him and his representatives, they bought into Clement and his ability to improve players. They bought into Niels Coppin and they bought into Rangers and what Rangers could offer him. He's a player who had a lot of offers. Milan wanted to keep him. He had offers in Italy, had offers in France. I'm sure getting halfway through his first season and no first team appearances, I doubt that's how he saw his first few months at Rangers playing out. I'm sure by now he would have wanted to have made that breakthrough, not in terms of being a regular in the squad, but certainly getting the odd bit of first team action, as you say. So interested to see how that unfolds the next couple of weeks. But certainly that Fraserburgh game, if he can't come in and play that one, you can then probably all but write him off for the rest of the season. Because if you can't play in that game, you're not going to then get into other Premiership games when there's more riding on them.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, as you touched on there, Chris, Rangers B team taking on Queen's Park tonight at the City Stadium in the quarterfinals of the SPFL Trust Trophy, the only B team left in the competition. So very best of luck to David McCallum and the Rangers youngsters this evening. Hopefully they can do the business against the Spiders and get through in that competition. That match kicking off at 7:45. And before we wrap up, many of you have taken advantage of our Black Friday offer. and this is the last day to do so. So if you've been humming or hawing and thinking, is it worth while, then now today is the final day you can take advantage of it. The offer ends at midnight tonight, where you can get 1 year's worth of Rangers Review content over on the website for just 12 quid, so £1 a month. It's cracking value. Not only that, but we're throwing in that brilliant print you can see on your screen as well. The commemoration of that win against Leipzig at Ibrox. Fantastic print there, which we're throwing in once you take out a subscription. So, yeah, brilliant value. Chris, I'm sure you agree. So we've seen so many people taking it up over the weekend, which is fantastic. Thank you to you all. But why should they sign up? Of course, they get this show free of charge, but the stuff on the website, absolutely sensational.
It is, and it's not just us talking up our own work, but I think the support that we get on the channel every morning, it always amazes me to see so many people come and join the discussion. We also do the extra shows, we've got the Q&As, we've got the member shows, all the press conference shows. But if you like what we do on the YouTube channel, you should join up to the website for also your press conference coverage, full match coverage. But there's exclusive news, exclusive interviews. Josh also does some great work in terms of the stats side of it, and his match analysis is second to none. I think we both chip in every so often, and we try and do our best to chip in. Stevie's also got his column on the site on a weekly basis as well for his view from a fan perspective. So no, it's to get that much coverage for just £12 is an incredible deal. And as you touched on there, been really pleased, really heartened with a number of people. We get these emails through, we get the WhatsApps through every morning with the latest updates on it. Been really encouraged by the number of people that have signed up. So thank you to everyone who has done so far. But time is, as you say, Derek, time is running out to take advantage of it and to get that £12 for 12 months deal. So make sure you don't miss out. Either get it for yourself, get it for an early Christmas present, but you certainly won't be disappointed. Come and join us. Now we operate under the tagline of the best Rangers journalism. It's not just a marketing ploy. It's something that we believe in terms of everything that we do on the site and on the channel. So certainly come and support us if you can.
Yep. Steve says, Derek, is the print automatically sent out to new subscribers? I believe it is. Once you take it out, I believe you will get it sent out to your home address. So, yep, cracking stuff. Like I said, ends at midnight tonight. So if you want to take advantage of that, today is the day to do just that. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. Right. Big thank you to Chris as ever. He's heading off to Auchenhowie this afternoon. For those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members, we'll be back with your press conference reaction video a little later on when we hear from the manager and whatever player is put up for the press. So we hope you can join us for that. If we don't speak to you later on, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Bye for now.